All right, let it go, Alan.
Okay, welcome to ElderWatch Insights, Top Scams and Fraud Safety Tips with Mark Federhoff. Mark is a program manager for AARP's ElderWatch, a statewide partnership between AARP and the Colorado Attorney General's Office to educate older Coloradoans about fraud and financial literacy. Mark has worked on education and outreach to older adults for over 15 years. He currently works with a crew of dedicated volunteers to address thousands of inquiries each month about fraud, scams, and financial exploitation as part of AARP's fraud helplines. Mark will now start the presentation.
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate the introduction, and good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great morning so far. Thanks for joining us for this. I mean, we were just discussing, I know that it's a beautiful sunny day out, but really appreciate you hopping on here to talk a little bit about fraud and scams. And hopefully I'll be able to answer some questions at the end of the presentation as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right here and get us going. That look okay, Alan?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, wonderful. So just real quick, Alan mentioned, again, my name is Mark. I'm the program manager for AARP ElderWatch, and it's a partnership between AARP and the Colorado Attorney General's Office that's been going on for over 20 years. We do a lot of education outreach around the state of Colorado about frauds and scams. We also have a helpline that we will assist people dealing with different types of issues. We're information and referral line, so we're not solving problems necessarily, but we're oftentimes trying to point people in the right direction in terms of what they need to do to mitigate fraud risk or to deal with a bad actor or bad company that they might have been dealing with, in addition to taking identity theft precaution steps or whatever it might be. That's generally what we try to do on our helpline. So if you have a question, just know and we're not on this call, just know that helpline exists. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have that phone number for you. It's a really easy one. It's just 1-800-222-4444. And when you press that, we're option 2. But it's part of the Colorado Attorney General's consumer complaint line. And there's a bunch of different options that you can use when you go to that helpline. We're taking hundreds of calls every month from people around Colorado. In addition to that, in our office, we also manage the AARP's national helpline, which is the FraudWatch Network helpline. Between our two helplines, we're taking over 100,000 calls a year from people around the country who are, in some way, shape, or form, reporting fraud or looking for assistance on dealing with a fraud situation, that type of thing as well. In addition to this type of work, we do teletown halls. Some of you might have been on a teletown hall before. We often do that with the Colorado Attorney General. And so we'll probably do another one of those in May. You might have got one of those phone calls in the past. We do shredding events in the summer months as well in different spots around Colorado, as well as older adult financial literacy. I will say again, the work that we're doing in Colorado is the lion's share of the work that I do, but we are doing a lot of national work too, again, through AARP's FraudWatch Network. So if you read the AARP bulletin, the last one that came out was just about the main topic of it was fraud. And so a lot of that information that we are getting on the helplines from real people out there is information that helps populate what's in that AARP bulletin. And so just know that that information is typically coming from real people who are reporting their fraud and scam situations to AARP. So today what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run through the top scams that we heard about on the helpline in 2024. And then talk about a couple of the big trends that are happening right now. But the lion's share of my presentation today is going to be going over some data that we received from Colorado. We did a survey of Coloradans 18 plus, and with the oversampling of those 50 plus, and kind of getting a good idea of what's going on in the world of fraud in Colorado. And I'll go into that methodology in the survey in just a second after I go through the top scams that we're hearing about on our helpline right now. So you can see a list here from 2023 and 2024. I'm focusing on the 2024 list, but I like keeping the 2023 up there so you can compare and contrast what might be trending right now as opposed to 2023. I will say that I usually about halfway through the year, I'll make this list 2024 and 2025, but we don't have enough data right now to really compare 2024 and 2025 in terms of the amount of calls that are coming in from Colorado. Number one on this list, identity theft, and that has been the number one most common scam reported to our helplines, both the Colorado and the national line, for the last 3 years, and for a lot of different reasons. But I know that, you know, if we're in a room right now and we were able to chat about this, we would talk about maybe data breaches and how many of you received a notification that you've received, that you're a part of a data breach or potentially part of a data breach. And I think that's one of the main reasons why identity theft continues to be at the top of our list here. And I'm going to talk more about identity theft in a minute. Imposter business scams. And so ever since 2020, imposter business scams have been towards the top of our list. And I'll say in 2020 and 2021, imposter scams were number one. And those imposter business scams were number one, mostly because of scammers using the name Amazon. They knew that Amazon was being used by many people, especially during pandemic times. And so they started using that name. That's still going on now, I would say, to a lesser extent. But at the same time, they're still using names of common businesses, you know, shipping entities, FedEx, UPS. You're used to that, different types of banks as well. And they're also, you know, using all, you know, PayPal, I think, has been one that's been used for maybe 10 or more years as well. But, you know, those types of payment entities that can trick people up. But again, important to verify where that communication is coming from. If you're receiving emails or text messages or phone calls from someone's saying they're with a large business like that, knowing that, again, that's one of the most common types of scams that's getting reported to our helplines in Colorado and nationally. Number three, tech support and computer virus scams. I know this is familiar to a lot of people, and really since I've been doing this work for about 10 years and running this program for the last 10 years, tech support scams and computer virus scams have really always been in the top three. I would say right now they're more aggressive than they've ever been before. Really, the goal of these tech support scams, you know, it typically shows up as a pop-up window on your screen that says something's wrong and you have to call, or you get a phone call again saying something's wrong with your computer, or maybe an invoice saying it's from Geek Squad or Norton or McAfee saying, you know, you need to pay up because you haven't paid for your support yet. All those different types of situations are leading to these. But the real goal of these scammers is to get on your computer so they can then get into your bank account and then drain those funds. This has gotten much more dangerous, much more aggressive. And so my message really to everyone on the call today is anyone who's trying to get remote access to your device that is unsolicited and you don't know, it should be a really good opportunity to disengage with that person because it's most likely a scammer. And again, their goal is to get onto your computer and hopefully get into your online bank account. And again, when I'm talking about computers and I'm talking about gaining access to your devices, I'm talking not just about your home computer or your tablet. I'm also talking about your phone. And your phone, super important right now because especially smartphones have lots of information, maybe more information than your laptop or desktop at home. Number four, phishing scams. And so there's a phishing scam going around right now that probably more prevalent than anything else that folks are receiving. And I hope it resonates with other folks who are on this call, but those toll road text messages that we're receiving saying that you owe a toll. And so in my mind, this is kind of the version of what was going on during the holiday season when you're receiving messages saying, you know, a package was undeliverable, that type of a thing. And so in my mind, again, scammers have kind of flipped the script and they are trying to let people know that are trying to trick people up into that they owe a toll. And so watch out for those text messages. Don't respond. Don't click on links. Don't do any of those things, because I know they're coming into so many of them, so many of us, and I've received them too. I will tell you, I received a phone call already on our helpline this morning about a toll road scam. So if you haven't received one, expect one in your text message inbox. But know they're out there, and know you shouldn't be responding or clicking on links. If you have any doubt, contact our known toll company directly. Number 5, home repair and improvement scams. Again, we hear a lot about these types of scams on our helpline. Folks who, the one type of scam, less common, fly-by-night operation. Again, someone showed up at your door and said they can help you with a home repair or a new roof or a new fence, whatever it may be, and then you give them money and they don't come back. The more common scam that we hear about, or situation that we hear about, is a disagreement with a contractor, essentially, or the contractor didn't finish their job, or the job wasn't done appropriately, or to the liking of the customer. And so we hear a lot about that. My recommendation, again, with home repair and improvement situations, do your research beforehand, and get multiple bids, get referrals from friends and neighbors. Read online reviews about all different types of people who might be able to help you with home projects, so you don't get stuck in that sticky situation that we often deal with, and doesn't always have a solution necessarily. Number 6, non-stranger exploitation. Again, this is a call that we would often get. Again, someone who is typically being financially exploited, often by a loved one, friends, family members, caregivers. And so watching out for these situations. Most of the referrals that we get from this type of call, usually involves a family member, and they're usually trying to figure out what to do next. And the most common referral that we give for this is to go to Adult Protective Services. And so it's good that it's on this list, just so folks know that agency, Adult Protective Services, exists in every county in Colorado. It's very similar to Child Protective Services, but deals with older adults. And so just knowing that is a resource out there for folks, I think, is important, especially when dealing with financial exploitation. Number 7 on this list, online dating and romance scams. Again, probably some of the most lucrative scams that we hear about on our helpline are these. Sometimes they're celebrity imposters. Sometimes they're, again, someone just trying to convince someone that they're in some type of a relationship with the other one. I think it's really important to recognize with these types of scams, you not have to be on an online dating site. I would say the majority of them that we're hearing on our helplines start on a social media site, like a Facebook or a Instagram, that type of a thing, and they start trying to engage you in that way. So you don't have to be looking necessarily for a relationship to end up in one of these relationship scams. So watch out for that. Again, requests for money or to ship goods or for products or for plane tickets, bright red flag of a relationship scam. Sweepstakes, prize, and lottery scam. Again, the most common, this one kind of shows up in our list. You can see in 2023, it was number 5. But the most common name that scammers still use in this regard are with Publishers Clearinghouse, or PCH as we often call it, because we hear about it so much. But the easiest way to remember that if you might be involved in a sweepstakes, prize, or lottery scam is that you should never have to pay money to receive money. And that's a really just important thing to remember. With regard to any type of scam like that, often too good to be true. But in these situations, the scammer is often trying to kind of prey on the hopes and dreams of that person on the other line, with regards to hoping that they did win that $2.5 million and that new Mercedes that's supposed to show up in the driveway. So watch out for those. They're still rampant out there. We're still hearing about too many victims, unfortunately. Imposter government scams. When I started doing this job about 10 years ago, these were always number 1 on our list. And I'm sure many of you remember those phone calls that we'd receive, especially this time of year, saying that they're from the IRS, or saying that they are from Social Security, for a while too, saying there's something wrong with your Social Security, and you have to give them information or pay to try and solve the situation. And so we are still getting reports of imposter government scams, just not as frequently. I would say they're much more, the ones that we are hearing about are much more targeted. And so an example of one that we hear about more frequently now would be the jury duty scam. Again, someone posing as a local government official and saying that you might have missed jury duty and you need to pay some type of fine. And so they often use the names of local sheriffs, local officials. In those situations, they might know what county you're in as well. So watch out for those types of calls. They can be very tricky. Again, they're not, if you miss jury duty, you're not going to receive a call threatening you, especially asking you to get Home Depot gift cards or whatever it may be. So, but watch out for those more targeted government imposter scams. And then the last one on this list, fraudulent sales. Fraudulent sales can look like a lot of different things, but for us, a lot of it is involved with online retailers. And so knowing that, again, scammers can develop fake websites and pretend to ship goods in different ways. I would say, a common one that we still hear about, unfortunately, are puppy scams or kitty scams. Again, where someone creates a fake website with a very particular kind of breed, and then someone who's looking for that breed then orders kind of a puppy through what they think is a breeder, but then the puppy never shows up. So that can happen with lots of different situations, and just again watching out for and doing research on any of those sites that you've never done business with before to make sure that it's not a scam. Again, a really easy way to do that is to just take the name of the business or the URL of the business, and then next to it in the search bar, put in the word fraud, scam, complaint, and just see again if other people have complained about that business, and read reviews about that business as well. It might save you a lot of pain down the road. So just some trends that I want to highlight, and I talked about some of them while we just going over some of those scams, but I just wanted to emphasize a couple of these trends. Again, with regard to tech support scams, but really any type of scam involving your computer, scammers are really trying to access your computer, phone, tablet. Never let an unsolicited contact access your device, no matter what it is. And when we're talking about devices, talking about anything with the internet browser, that's where they want to be. Especially if that's your device. So just really watch out for that requesting access to your computer, phone, or tablet, because that can be very dangerous and lead to, again, the draining of bank accounts, that type of a thing. Requests for cryptocurrency as a form of payment. So this is a big trend right now that we're seeing. Again, scammers know that cryptocurrency is easily transferable, and it's again really important for folks. If you don't know anything about cryptocurrency, or if you're being told to do something like scan a QR code and then send money at a cryptocurrency ATM machine, which are in many grocery stores and gas stations and things like that, to stop what you're doing, because you're probably involved in some type of a scam. Other common forms of payment still remain gift cards, peer-to-peer payment apps, that type of thing. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit more in a second. Again, offers for easy money, and I know folks on this call have enough experience to know that these offers for easy money are too good to be true. But I think we need to remind ourselves that sometimes to trust your gut. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Again, the lottery sweepstakes that we talked about, offers for grants that are coming on social media, even if it's coming from a friend or family member or what you think is a friend or family member, definitely a scam. We're seeing lots of employment scams right now too, just because the job market has changed and people are working from home more. So it makes people more interested in the ability to maybe work from home. And so they're like, oh, I could work from home if I had a job that's 20 hours a week, and then start kind of hunting around for those jobs. Again, if the job doesn't feel right, or you don't know what you're doing as part of the job, it is probably a scam, or if they're asking for payment in advance. We're getting more and more reports of this. I know a lot of AARP members are retired, and so we probably aren't getting as many reports as maybe some younger cohorts, but at the same time, really important to watch out for that and make sure that friends and family members who are looking for work are doing so in a safe way too, and not kind of getting tripped up in these situations, because as we know, lots of personal information, lots of financial information can be involved when you're starting a new job. Also, opportunities for crypto investments. Someone approaches you on social media and says they can triple your money by investing in crypto. 100% a scam. I can guarantee you that. And so again, like any other type of investments, guaranteed returns are a bright red flag of a scam. Attempts to steal your identity, again, you know, in the world and where we're at, where we are receiving data breaches frequently and that type of a thing, I think it's best to assume that your information is already out there and you should be taking those preventative steps to protect your identity. And probably the number one website that I give out on our helpline and that our volunteers give out on our helpline is identitytheft.gov. Again, it's not fun taking preventative steps to protect your identity, but it also should give you a bit of peace of mind. And so when I'm talking about preventative steps, I'm talking about checking your annual credit report, placing fraud alerts and credit freezes as well. And you can access all that information on identitytheft.gov. It's also a great site for reactively dealing with identity theft related issues. So again, if you do have an identity theft related issue, you can file a report on identitytheft.gov as well. And I'm going to talk more about identity theft in a second with regards to our report. And then tricky text messages. Again, scammers know that we're talking to our friends and family via text. And so they, and I think frankly, we're less likely to answer the phone than we used to be because so many calls are scams, and we have better spam blocking and junk folders and things like that with our emails. So text messages is kind of where they're going to. And I'm sure many of you have seen that. Sometimes we have really good blocking for text message scams. I have two phones. My work phone does a terrible job about blocking scam text, but my personal phone does actually a really good job. And so, but it doesn't catch all of them. And so again, watching out for those shipping text messages, the text messages about tolls, and also the text messages that are just trying to get you to engage in conversation. And so that can be just hello, or it can be, hey, is this Bob Smith? And you write back and just say no, or no, you have the wrong number, and then they're wanting to engage in conversation, and that's what their goal is in those situations, so they can hopefully again gain information or ask for money at some point. So again, watching out for those text messages is super important with regards to the trends that we're seeing right now with regards to fraud. So as I mentioned, I'm going to talk today about a survey that we did and that we released at the end of 2024. When I first released this data for this survey, I presented it to about 200 aging professionals in the field of aging in Colorado. And so I wanted to get this information out to consumers as well, like you. So hopefully you can share the information. We will send a link to the survey with the follow-up tomorrow. And so just know that's coming because we're not going to spend enough time on every slide for you to totally kind of fully grasp everything, maybe in the sense that you want to, but at the same time, you will be able to go and look at all the survey data. You can look at the annotated questionnaire, whatever you want to. Again, this is all just Coloradans, and we had an oversample of 50 plus, and so this again a survey of 907 Coloradans. And with an oversample, with half that population being 50 plus and the rest of the population being 18 to 49. And you'll see comparisons throughout this survey from some of the same questions that we asked in 2020. Again, we tried to ask questions that were not kind of COVID related with regards to this survey. And so we're comparing information that we got from a survey in 2020 to what we did again towards the end of 2024. So again, looking at methodology for research geeks, you can see all of these things. I think it's interesting stuff too. The way that we did the questionnaire, the 2020 survey and it says that throughout this survey was only a phone-based survey. This was 50% phone, 50% non-probability online survey. So hopefully, again, gives you a little bit better perspective. But 907 people participated in the survey total from Colorado. And again, you can see demographics really split out between ages and genders, and then you can kind of see the rest, fairly representative of Colorado just as a whole. And so some of the first questions that we had were really just about online usage, just to get a full perspective of, again, who's doing what online. And part of the survey, one of the questions was you have to have some type of ability to be online, otherwise weren't engaged in the survey. So you can see here, again, a lot of the data that we have kind of compares and contrasts the 18 to 49 population versus the 50 plus population. And you can see here that you're probably not surprised to see 67% of the younger population has some type of access for online accounts. Well, a smaller percentage, 50 plus, but still just over half, again, have online accounts. And you can see, again, the green represents all and the blue represents some. So the vast majority of folks in Colorado, regardless of age, have some or all in terms of access to their online financial accounts. And so one of the things that we were asking as part of the survey too was just the frequency as to which people are kind of monitoring those online accounts. And an interesting thing here is again looking at the variety in ages too. You can see again that the 50 plus population in Colorado are monitoring their online accounts more frequently than the younger population is, but overall, you know, about 7 in 10 folks are monitoring their accounts regularly, but with a small change in the older versus younger population here. So one of the things that we noticed, and one of the things that we asked in this survey, was trying to gauge how many people are using peer-to-peer payment methods as a way of transferring money. And so I think this is important because peer-to-peer payment methods are often requested as a payment method via scammers, just because they know there aren't the protections that banks have, as well as that the fact that there are, you know, just again, lots of scammers who are requesting this type of information. And so you can see in 2020, 58% of Coloradans were using peer-to-peer payment methods. And when I'm talking again about these payment methods, I'm talking about Venmo, I'm talking about Cash App, I'm talking about Zelle. Those might be familiar to you. I mean, I personally use peer-to-peer payment methods to transfer money to friends all the time for different types of things, or maybe pay to my haircut, those types of things as well. And so we were trying to gauge this because, again, it's becoming more regular and more frequent that again, people are using them. And you can see 90% of the younger cohort in this situation is using a peer-to-peer payment method, 65%, 50 plus as well. And you can see that it's just grown substantially since that time, which is not worrisome for me in many situations, but I'll show you what we're getting at in a second, as long as you're using them for the correct method. And so again, we ask people what they're using peer-to-peer payment apps for. And so you're looking again at the growth from 2020 to 2024. The green bars represent 2020, and the kind of the light blue bars represent 2024. And so you can see growth in the usage of these through many of the different questions we asked, whether it be sending money to a family member, sending money to a friend or neighbor, receiving money from an online or business, reimbursing an individual for something, paying a bill, paying for individual personal services, like getting your haircut. But when we're looking at those green, looking at those red numbers, where the red kind of bullets there, that purchase an item from an online bidding site, purchase a ticket to an entertainment or sporting event, making a donation to a charity or nonprofit organization, sending money to someone you met online to help them. So you can see those numbers have gone down a bit, but at the same time, they still exist. So 1 in 5 folks are still saying that they've done those types of things. And so in my mind, those are the riskier actions that people are taking on peer-to-peer payment platforms. And those are the ones that I really want people to be aware of when we're talking about, again, peer-to-peer payment and how we use peer-to-peer payment apps. We call them peer-to-peer payment apps because you're paying your friends, you're paying your peers, you're paying people who you know. You're not paying someone who you don't know, because, you know, hypothetically, if you buy something on Craigslist and they say they'll ship it to you, if you just Venmo them $100, there's a really good chance you're not going to see what it is they're going to ship to you. So really want people to watch out for that and how they use these apps and these tools for transferring money. And so again, learned a lot just from that. I like to see the way the numbers are trending from 2020 to 24, but again, still looking at some of these dangerous activities. 1 in 5 are still participating in them, which is worrisome to me. You know, sometimes 1 in 4 are participating in those things as well. So worrisome for me, just in the fact that people are still using them for that. But I think generally things are trending okay. So we asked folks too, are you worried about scams and fraud? And so these numbers probably don't shock anyone on this call, but again, we asked for the variation between the 18 to 49 versus 50 plus populations, a little bit more concerned. And we asked for ratings via numbers on this one. And so again, you can see somewhere between 70 and 80% of folks are concerned about scams and fraud, and indicated so by giving a rating on the higher side of a number scale. We also asked folks an opinion, you know, have scams and fraud hit a crisis level? And so 3 out of 4 Coloradans think scams and fraud have hit a crisis level. And so, you know, the other thing that we asked with regards to that is, in general, do you feel your personal information is more or less secure online than it was in 2020? Or has that level not changed? And so, again, you can see that generally people think that it's less secure than it was in 2020, maybe just because they've seen more data breaches, or maybe notifications about things on the dark web, that type of a thing. You know, a lot of people also saying they believe it's about the same, and a smaller percentage, again, thinking that it's more secure than it was then too. I think you can make a lot of arguments for any of these responses, but at the same time, I think there's a general sense that they are, you know, their information is not secure online just because it's so prevalent out there as well. We asked about concerns with regards to identity theft, and really, this hasn't changed that much. Just a very small amount. Again, people saying whether they're very or somewhat concerned about identity theft. The numbers grew just a tiny bit, and you can see it's a little bit higher against the 50 plus population, as well as females a little bit higher with regards to their response to this too. And again, as I mentioned before, when we're talking about identity theft, it's the most common thing that we're hearing about on our helpline, both in Colorado and nationally. And so there's reason to have concerns about it because it's fairly rampant. So again, the question that we asked here was, thinking about scams and fraud, how much do you worry about each of the following items? And again, just looking at responses that were a lot or somewhat: rapid growth of fraud, having my identity stolen, not enough being done to combat fraud. Again, mostly in older adults in these situations, the numbers are a little bit higher. I think a couple interesting ones are at the bottom. You know, younger folks are more concerned about the possibility of losing money just because they might not have as much money, I would say. And also, you know, younger folks might be thinking more about their parents or grandparents. And so again, that bottom category you can see is a little bit higher too, a loved one being victimized. And so they're thinking about other people in those situations, and more concerned about than maybe other people than themselves being the victim of a scam, because they've seen or heard about attempts, especially targeting older adults too. And so just other concerns that people mentioned that weren't part of our list about frauds and scams. is these are just a couple of the examples that came through that kind of didn't fit in our categories. And I think a lot of it had to do with concerns about artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence for kind of nefarious causes. And so again, I will tell you that in terms of the calls that we get on our helpline right now, we're not getting a lot of calls that reference artificial intelligence as something that's actually happening. But at the same time, folks might not be able to identify the fact that it's artificial intelligence. I will also just say that a lot of kind of the everyday scams that we've been hearing about and dealing with for many years continue to work without even using artificial intelligence. But knowing that we need to be on the ball in terms of knowing artificial intelligence exists, and that people, the ones that we have heard about on our helpline, might be like a deep fake of a celebrity asking for money or asking for investments, that type of a thing. And it's someone who you believe you trust, and it sounds like their voice or looks like their picture. But at the same time, again, do your research on all these things. There's a low probability that celebrities are reaching out directly to you asking for investment funds, especially given the wealth of many of them. So we asked also about kind of what types of imposter scams and the prevalence of imposter scams. We got a wide variety of responses. You can see here that 6 out of 10 Coloradans have experienced some type of imposter scam. And honestly, most scams that we kind of day-to-day scams are imposter scams because it's someone posing as someone else, right? Whether it be a grandparent scam and someone's posing as a grandson or granddaughter, or someone's posing as Amazon representative, or someone's posing as sheriff as part of a jury duty scam. Again, it's lots of people trying to pose as other people. So you can see the most common type of imposter scams that we hear about in Colorado. A notification again from a major shipping entity. Those are really crazy busy around the holidays, but we see them pretty much all year round as well, because again, people are ordering lots of things online and expecting things to be delivered. So it's kind of low-hanging fruit in that world. Again, a representative from a well-known business. I talked about Amazon before, how that name is used frequently. Big banks also, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, very common. A representative from a government agency, again, IRS, Social Security, we still get those types of calls. They're just a little bit less frequent than we used to. Computer support or virus. I thought this number might be a little bit higher actually on the survey, but again, people are still out there posing as Windows, Microsoft, Apple, HP, printer support, whatever it may be. Norton, McAfee, Geek Squad, all those names are being used fairly regularly in this world. And then someone posing as a family member. Again, most of those we see are some type of grandparent scam, but we do see them also with other relationships. Might be a spouse, might be a niece, nephew, that type of a thing too. So just an idea about what people are reporting in terms of the most common types of imposter scams. And so we also asked folks about identity theft and if anyone had dealt with identity theft. And we see here the green represents no, they've not dealt with identity theft. And then the blue represents someone I know has experienced it. And then you'll see myself and someone I know, and then and the yellow, and then again, with the dark red, it's the myself. I have experienced identity theft. So you can see those numbers have grown some since 2020, which is not surprising to me, honestly, just because, again, the amount of identity theft reports that we've been getting on the helpline. And so just seeing that. And then, so we took that number and we looked at those who had experienced identity theft. Did they lose money? And again, you can see on the right-hand side that there's, a greater chance of losing money as part of an identity theft situation than there was in 2020. So important to know that as well. Identity theft situations aren't just, someone finding out that you had a Social Security number. It often can result in a loss of funds too. So in terms of money lost, I will say it's interesting to see those two. Have you lost money as part of a scam? And we're looking here at 42% of the 18 to 49 population who said, did say that there's money lost as part of a scam. But part of the problem with this number is those 50 plus typically you lose more money. And so when we look at FTC numbers, it says that when younger people lose money as part of a scam, it's a significantly smaller amount, and when older people are losing money part of a scam, it's usually quite a bit more. Though at the same time, you can again see here that there are less older adults that have lost money as part of a scam than younger folks in Colorado. We also want to know about data breaches, and I've mentioned data breaches a couple of times on this call today. And so the question that we asked here: in the past 12 months, have you received a notification that your personal information was part of a data breach at a business, health entity, or government agency? And just looking at that, 57% of older adults say they have. 46% of the younger cohort did say they have as well. And so it's a lot of folks who have been dealing with a data breach. And I'll just say, I've probably gotten 3 or 4 in the last year from all different types of entities, and I'm sure folks on this call that resonates with them as well. I think that the numbers are a little bit lower, maybe just because of exposure to less health entities, but also maybe not the ability. The younger cohort might honestly not be looking at their mail, where they are receiving these data breach notifications. Sometimes they come via email, sometimes they come via the mail, but at the same time too, there's obviously still a lot of people who are dealing with different types of data breach information and trying to figure out what's going on. So we asked folks too, so you received that notification, so what the heck did you do after you heard about that data breach? And so you can see on the right there that 1 out of 8 Coloradans took no action whatsoever as a result of receiving a data breach notification. So that's not our recommendation, but it's good to know that's kind of what's going on there. And so you can see the most common step people take is check your annual credit report, which is a great step to take. You can see almost half of people did that after they received the notification of a data breach. Again, highly recommend that, going to annualcreditreport.com. It's a free way of checking your annual credit report. Sign up for free credit monitoring offered by the organization that was breached. Again, if you want to sign up for their, volunteered monitoring services, that's totally up to you in that situation. Usually they offer 1 or 2 years of monitoring of your data. If you believe that's going to be helpful for you, that's great. Contact your bank or financial institution. Can place a fraud alert with one of the credit reporting bureaus, place a credit freeze. Both really good steps to, again, making a barrier and putting a barrier in place to making it harder to use, a social security number or other information to open a line of credit in your name, and then reported it to your local, state, or government entity as well. So I'm encouraged by the steps that are being taken, but again, looking at the most common step that people take, only half of folks who received a notification did that. And so it's something, but we're, again, trying to encourage folks, everyone who has some type of data breach notification, to take that free step of checking your annual credit report, or free step placing a fraud alert or credit freeze as well. So the next question that we asked was, which of the following actions did you take as a result of the notification, personal information? And then as a result of that, we kind of paired that with information of folks who'd lost money as part of a scam. And so again, people who had lost money to a scam were more likely to take one of those actions than people who had not lost money as part of a scam. And so again, once they received that notification, because they had been victimized by some type of situation before, they're more likely to take that type of action. And so you can, again, see the different ones that we just went through. They're more likely to check their annual credit report, not necessarily likely to sign up for the monitoring, much more likely to contact their bank or financial institution, which doesn't surprise me. Much more likely, again, to place a fraud alert with one of the credit reporting bureaus, or place a credit freeze as well, or report it. So again, I think that, again, taking the advice of just through the survey of people who have dealt with situations where they've lost money as part of a scam, and then taking that extra step when you receive that data breach notification, I think is really important. And that's kind of what this slide illustrates. So hopefully that's helpful for folks. We also asked folks, if you lost money as part of a scam or fraud, how would you want to receive that guidance or that information? And so again, the majority of people said phone conversation with a trained specialist. That's more popular, obviously, for a 50 plus population, or not obviously necessarily, but it's more common that they would receive their information that way. Via email, again, a little bit more popular for a 50 plus population than a younger cohort. A younger cohort prefers the online submission process, the text messaging, chatbot conversation online as well. And so again, we're just trying to learn how people want to receive this information and how they want to kind of handle their fraud situations, or and phone conversation still seems to be the #1 way that they do. And I'm trying to breeze through some of this so I can answer as many questions at the end as possible. So please bear with me. The survey part is almost done. And so another thing that we asked about was passwords, and your unique passwords, that type of a thing. And passwords, I think, are really important. Again, a lot of us use fingerprints or facial recognition, or other types of kind of biometric ways of identifying themselves online now. But passwords still remain an important part of our lives, like it or not. I know, regardless if you have that sheet next to your computer or whatever it may be, passwords are still there for us. And so you can see when we asked folks about unique passwords that they had from 2020 versus 2024, less people were using different passwords for all their online accounts. And then we again asked that for folks based on age, and based on their feelings about identity theft. And so again, people are taking more precautions with their passwords if they're very or somewhat concerned about identity theft. Again, and older adults seem to be using more different passwords than younger adults with regards to their financial accounts as well, to help keeping them more secure. So again, other fraud prevention strategies that are being used, and you can see again, passwords, passcodes, facial identity, fingerprint recognition on devices. So again, younger folks using that more. Protective software and antivirus software. Again, older adults using that a little bit more. Password managers being used a little bit more by younger folks. VPNs being used as well, a little bit more by younger folks too. Multi-factor authentication. Highly recommend using multi-factor authentication if you have the ability to use it for different, especially financial accounts, I think is really important too. And robocall blocking services of different sorts. In the survey, we asked folks in 2020 if they're using robocall blocking services versus 2024 versus 2020, and 50% more folks are using robocall blocking services. So folks in Colorado are sick of those calls coming in, and more are using those types of services to get rid of scam calls that are coming in. And also, compared to 2020, more Coloradans are ordering their free credit reports. And so again, in 2020, the number that we received as part of our survey was 28%. 2024, you can see 42%. And so again, I think really important to acknowledge and congratulate, our fellow Coloradans for doing better at this, but at the same time, a lot more folks could be doing this too. Again, it's a free step, it's very quick as well. Again, annualcreditreport.com is where you go, and you can literally request a credit report online every week. It's not even the 3-month window or the 4-month or the once a year situation that people were dealing with too. And so again, you can see the frequency that people are requesting them. Still, the majority of people, which is cool, are saying several times a year, once a year, still every few years, and then never, in terms of frequency of ordering those credit reports that, again, are free. And so we asked folks again to have they placed a credit freeze on their credit report. 2020, we had 22%. We had a bit of growth to 26% in 2024. And we asked folks also why they have not placed a credit freeze. And so knowing that 3/4 of Coloradans don't have some type of credit freeze, we're trying to figure out the barriers to this. And so never heard of it before. They don't know how to set it up. They don't understand how it helps me. It's not 100% effective. It's probably expensive, which there's no cost to it. So that's just debunking that. I would say it would probably take too much time. Let's say it usually takes somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes per credit reporting bureau. But again, when I'm talking about the credit reporting bureaus, just so we're all on the same page, talking about Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, the 3 major credit reporting bureaus. And so again, knowing that you can go to each of their websites and set up a free credit freeze on there is an option. And so if you go to identitytheft.gov, again, it will direct you to the correct places on each website too. But if you go to each of their consumer websites as well, they will direct you how to set up a credit freeze, and each of them involves setting up an account with each of the credit reporting bureaus, the Experian, the Equifax, and the TransUnion as well. And we asked folks ways they want to receive information about frauds and scams. Again, the different vary based on age, emails, local news outlets, text message. And again, this is really for us on how we figure out how we communicate with folks and how they want to be communicated with about the different types of scams that are out there. So helpful for us. Again, executive summary in this regard. Worry about scams and fraud is very high amongst Coloradans in general. So 3 out of 4 usually feel it's at some type of crisis level. And you know, there's more folks that have experienced identity theft and money lost than there were also in 2020. So that's growing, which we don't want to see. Folks want to have that conversation with a specialist. Is the majority of folks prefer that as a method of communication. You know, some risks that we're watching out for that I mentioned before, you know, monitoring of online accounts and you know, also looking at the use of peer-to-peer payment methods and how lots of people are using them, but there's still plenty of people, you know, 1 to 4 to 1 in 5 folks are using them in ways that we might deem dangerous. So watching out for that. Also, you know, using various strategies, including different passwords and strong passwords and facial recognition and antivirus software, I think is important. And the last one on there, just how people want to receive information. Again, best way is through email, according to this survey. So again, implications for us: importance of distinct passwords, importance of information around safe ways of using peer-to-peer payment methods, explanation, and initiation of credit freezes. And that's one of the things we've really been working on recently, is trying to emphasize why a credit freeze is important and make sure people know that there shouldn't be a barrier for them with regards to credit freezes as well. So what this means in terms of ElderWatch, what it means for us, that we're going to be talking more about some of these things that we learned about here, focused on ID protection efforts because it's such a big deal, and the information gaps that exist there. Focus on communication, education preferences, again, how people want to be communicated with, continued peer-to-peer payment education as well, and more. And so, as I mentioned before, here's that phone number that if you want to give us a call on the ElderWatch helpline, there's our phone number. We're 800-222-4444, option 2. And now I believe I just need to answer some questions. So I see one question there. What's the helpline phone number? Which is great. Again, our Colorado specific helpline phone number is 1-800-222-4444. The message that Allison posted up there as well, that's the Fraud Watch Network helpline phone number. So that's our national number. We will probably, you know, either way, there's great volunteers who are helping you out on both helplines. No problem whatsoever. Just looking at the other questions here. I play a few games on my phone, and there are ads for these games that will pay you money to play. This sounds going to be true. Your take. I would do as much research as possible on any type of opportunity like that. I think a lot of the times they're trying to gain lots of information that might be worth them more than the money that they're paying you. I know there are some legitimate services and some legitimate kind of opinion research that folks are doing on games and that type of a thing, but I would just do my due diligence, do my research. Again, if you're being spammed a lot as a result of being part of this, I would get out of it. I would just say, again, make sure it's worth it to you in terms of the money. But I think a lot of the times it's lots of information gathering, which I'm a little bit hesitant about just because of the amount of identity theft that's going on out there. What else we got? I'm getting phone calls on my cell regarding inquiry if I've received Medicare supplies like braces. It's really annoying. I don't know how to stop getting them. And that's, thanks for that comment, Sharon, and the question. I think that you're not alone in this. It's very frustrating. I think we get a lot more of this type of call during Medicare open enrollment. But generally speaking, they're trying to get personal information from you. Because there's still plenty of Medicare scammers out there who are sending out medical supplies and braces. If you end up in one of these situations, it's important that where you do end up getting supplies, that type of a thing too. It's important to know there's a good resource out there called Senior Medicare Patrol, and it's run through the Colorado Division of Insurance, and they are able to help with a little bit more in-depth Medicare related fraud. I would say, unfortunately, there's probably not a silver bullet to getting rid of those calls in terms of, but to the extent you don't engage with them, the more likely they are to not continue to contact you. So again, I'm sorry about that. I know a lot of people probably on this call are dealing with that exact same issue. Question: how concerned should we be about administration officials accessing government systems around our personal information, Social Security, other government system, other personal information? Ken, that's a great question. I would say, again, I think it's critically important that we are, and in a more general sense, I mentioned it too, thinking about our information as it's already out there. And I mentioned that, a little bit earlier in the presentation, but making the assumption that our information, whether with government officials or on the dark web or through data breaches or whatever it may be, assuming that it's already out there. And that's why we need to think preventative action rather than reactive. And so thinking about, again, checking your annual credit report, checking in your credit report regularly, placing fraud alerts and credit freezes. Again, there's no cost to any of those things. And doing any of them might take somewhere from 5 to 15 minutes. And so taking those preventative steps is the best way of kind of combating any type of person who you don't want having your personal information dealing with it. And that's kind of the best steps we have right now. Do you know or suggest having an IP pen with the IRS offers personal security? This is for filing your yearly taxes. And so, yes, I was actually just on a presentation recently with folks from the IRS. You can set up a pen with them. They require a pen typically if you have been the victim of identity theft, where someone has filed taxes in your name. And so usually that pen is required, but they offer the ability for you to do it. If you haven't had an issue, I would say, again, it's another preventative step that you could take. And I honestly don't know what the process is right now or what it looks like in terms of contacting the IRS. But at the same time, if you have had an issue, yes, definitely. If you haven't had an issue before, again, it's an option that you have. If you can do it easily and set it up online, I don't know the exact process for setting it up online, but if you can do it easily online, then sure, I think it might be like a good step to take. Again, one extra precaution with regards to identity theft and taxes. Great question again. I love giving out the answer again. Lynn, what's the website to get your annual free credit report? It's annualcreditreport.com. Again, annualcreditreport.com. That is the main portal to get your annual credit report. Perfect. And just if any more questions or comments want to come in, that's great. Happy to answer any of them. Again, you can always call that ElderWatch helpline number, the 1-800-222-4444. Happy to answer any of your questions there too. We either have volunteers or staff. I personally answer quite a few of the questions myself too. And so it's, if you want to talk to me, if you're just like, hey, Mark, I was just on your presentation and I have a question for you about something that you said or about anything, you can always do that too. I'm happy to have that conversation with you to the extent that I can. Again, I appreciate it. I hope that this was helpful for folks today, just in terms of thinking about that. Know that if you have groups of people that you belong to that you think would benefit from this information, we do presentations as well in person, or if you want to share this recording, please do as well. But I think I've hit time, but I want to thank you all so much for being here for today's presentation. And again, hopefully this helps you down the road as you deal with the jillions of frauds and scams that are coming at us from all directions.
Mark, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why are we seeing all these large data breaches? Is it because the companies are lax with their security processes?
Yeah, I think some of the, I think there's a handful of different reasons, but I think some of the big companies just haven't been ready for it yet, frankly. And I think that scammers are looking for kind of niche targets that a lot of the times, particularly with regards to like the healthcare data breaches that we've seen, they're not going to well-known health entities that we might be familiar with, but they're going to places where they store a lot of information. And so I think that, we're seeing companies ramp up their information and tech security right now, but some of them haven't done it fast enough, unfortunately. And so that's partly how I think we've gotten to where we've gotten. But I think there's a big push right now in information security for really every type of company and every type of entity out there. We're all going to see it because we're going to be asked for multi-factor authentication, different new passwords all the time. And it's very frustrating, but at the same time, knowing they're trying to protect us in different ways.
Mark. And then Gail asked, how do we access the recording for this presentation? And Gail, there should be a link in the email reply that you get after the class.
And hopefully we'll post it on our YouTube page as well. I think we do that, but we'll hopefully do that as well.
Mark?
Yes.
I've had a concern about, I don't know how you feel about these password companies that will automate passwords. You don't have to have 100 passwords in your head. My concern is if I give some company all my passwords and they get hacked, then what?
Yeah, I mean, and I think I appreciate the question. It's one that I can go down a rabbit hole on, but it's a legitimate concern. And I think that, I don't personally use a password manager, but most identity theft experts will tell you that a password manager, especially if you're managing a lot of different profiles on a lot of different sites, is the way to go. It's very similar. I mean, I will equate it in a similar way to the way that Equifax data breach from, I think, 2018. Again, we're dealing with entities that are businesses also, and so they're running their business, but at the same time, they were the victim of a data breach too. And so It depends how many kind of entities out there you want to trust with your information. And is it one? Is it 10? And so I think being very judicious about that is a good thing to think about without trying to be paranoid. I don't want to make people paranoid out there, but I just want you to think very like conscientiously about, again, who is receiving your personal information, how they're receiving it, what precautions they're taking to make sure that it's safe. And so doing a little bit of that research, I think, is a good idea. There's a plausible situation where, again, a password manager company could be hacked as well. Again, I would think that Equifax or Experian or TransUnion would never be hacked, but that's already been proven wrong. And so again, it's just being keep that information as close to you as possible and manage it in the way you are best suited to manage it for yourself. And for some people, it's not having that list of passwords next to their computer because 20 people use their computer, but for someone who it's their computer, they're the only one who uses it and they're the only one in their house, it's probably not that big of a deal, right? And so again, thinking about your situation and what makes most sense for you.
Mark, in response to that question, you can buy a password safe and carry it with you, and you can enter all your passwords there. You only need one password to access the safe, and it's really easy to use, but you have them all at your fingertips.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great information. I will say there's so much great technology out there. Take advantage of the technology that's out there and find out what works for you and what you're most comfortable with. I don't want to force anything down anyone's throat in terms of how they use their information or how they protect their information, but take advantage of the many technology tools out there that your bank provides, that your retirement accounts provide, that again, different types of computer companies and technology companies provide as well.
Hi, Mark, it's Mayanne. I have a question that came to me from Adrian. Adrian wants to know if it's worth it to freeze your credit.
I definitely think so. Again, if you are someone, and again, it's thinking about your personal situation. If you're someone who is house shopping right now or car shopping right now, it might not be physically the easiest thing to do. It might want to wait till that process is over, just because you're gonna have to unfreeze it for creditors to be able to check your credit. But generally speaking, it's usually pretty easy to unfreeze if you need to, or you can unfreeze it for a day or two when creditors might need to look at it. And so, again, most of the people who call in our helpline that we talk to are older adults who are not looking to buy a new house or finance a car or take out a loan, that type of a thing. And so if you're looking to do any of those type of transactions, it might be a little bit of a pain for you just because you're gonna have to freeze and unfreeze. But the process has gotten easier because you can manage it online very easily too. And so, yes, there's no cost to it for freezing or unfreezing. There used to be costs to it. Like when I started this job, there was costs associated with freezing and unfreezing, not anymore. And so, yes, I think it's worth it. And we recommend it to people all day, every day on the helpline. Again, just in hopes that folks are sleeping a little bit better at night, knowing that someone might not be opening a line of credit in their name.
And Mark, as it happens, I just did that yesterday. I unfroze my credit report for a 2-day period because someone that I trusted needed to access it. So you can put a start and stop date on that, freeze, unfreeze.
Yeah. And was it fairly easy for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it just took me a few minutes. I just had to log into my TransUnion account and set that unfreeze.
It's definitely gotten better. And I know that. And so I'm glad it was an easy process for you. I don't want there to be, I think in the past, there used to be too many barriers to it, including cost. And so that's not the case anymore.
Mark, Mayanne again. We have a question from Elizabeth. Why aren't I'm guessing officials, more successful in bringing people to justice?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I hear it almost every day too, because it's, you know, it's frustrating, and I think a couple of things are going on there. One of the things is it's so widespread, but a real big part of this is that the vast majority of fraud that we hear about is coming from the other side of the world. And so these people most of them are not operating inside the United States. When you do hear about situations where people are getting caught, it is oftentimes due to an operative or a money mule or some type of person inside the United States who's part of it. And so when they're able to connect those dots and connect it back to wherever the money is going to, we see more success. In terms of catching people. Also, when there's physical cash involved or physical, like some type of payment involved or a physical transaction, much more likely that you catch a person. But so many of the scams that we deal with right now, again, there's no physical transaction that's going on. It's money is being sent via cryptocurrency or gift card, and it's very quickly done, and it's going somewhere on the other side of the world, unfortunately. And so I also think that it's not covered widely when there are victories. And so there are victories. I probably follow it a little bit more than other folks, but when there are victories, it's not as widespread. I think the people who do this work aren't as good at publicizing the good work they do as they could be.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other ones?
I don't see anything
Right,
else
well-
in the chat, Alan, unless you do.
No. Want to thank everyone for attending today and thank Mark for that excellent presentation.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate everyone being on today. Please share this information with someone who someone in your life who needs it, and share the recording or just share a tidbit that you learned today. And again, hopefully people will be a little bit safer as a result.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone.
Have a great rest of the day and go out and enjoy that sun.
Yeah.
Yes.